All right, Jimothy, what's your call sign going to be?
Well, brother, you can just call me Hell Yeah.
Hell yeah. Have you been drinking Americans?
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah. You're gonna fly a mission.
Bravo sector.
Bravo.
Oh boy.
Okay, it's like a 1942 clone.
It is. But you got to like actually damage ships. The frame rate is so much poorer than I remember at the tender age of 14.
You didn't run into the guy when you flew past him there?
I think you do damage continually when you're in contact with them.
Oh, I see. I love how you get money. Money just materializes when you kill things.
So the government's paying you to destroy space shuttles, as you can see. And then you get energy.
And the space shuttles are shooting at you.
This laptop has the worst D-pad in the universe, by the way.
Ooh, you got some kind of thingy bob.
Yeah, so that's the other thing, is you got to blow up structures on the ground to get yet more money.
Oh, I see.
And you can buy special missions that target the ground.
Special weapons, you mean?
Weapons. Sorry.
Not special
I'm
missions?
just very excited. I haven't played this game in like 20 years. It was a good game. I only ever had the shareware version, so I could only see the. You remember when you would quit a shareware game and it would show you the screenshots of like the main game?
Yeah, this is how awesome this could be.
All you got to do is send $20 to Apogee in sunny California, and they will mail you 5 floppy disks.
Hey, did you know that Blasteroids 3D was shareware, and that we actually made $0? No one ever upgraded it.
Well, the address was wrong.
Ever. No, the address was correct. The problem was we gave away too much. It was what I call the descent problem.
That's actually what happened with Raptor. I mean, I was pretty satisfied with the demo. It was awesome.
Yeah. The demo should have been less. Oh, those are totally 1942 ripoffs.
Yep. But, you know.
Or 1941, wasn't it?
If you got to rip off a game, 1942 is a pretty good one.
Yeah.
Let's just destroy this oil rig here. Flood the ocean with oil. No big deal. We'll just blow up this camp. Somebody's sleeping in there. He's dead now.
So, I think you're more of a hazard to the friendly troops on the ground than you are.
No. Those are the enemy. So you're supposed to destroy these ships, but also rain destruction on the people below.
So, let's just ponder the morality of what you're doing. You're invading a sovereign nation, destroying their aircraft, and bombarding their people.
It's called Raptor Call of the Shadows, not Nanny Call of Lunch.
Call of lunch. I think you're being a destabilizing force for the geopolitical well-being of this nation.
I feel bad for the guys who are in these ships that don't have guns or are having guns that shoot like off to the side, so there's not really anything they can do to me.
I feel in general, anyone on the other side is getting a raw deal on their spaceship. It's like, I got my ship, but hey, I can only fire 3 times, whereas he can shoot missiles and guns, and it's just not fair.
Guys, what about this? What if instead of building 100 ships, we just built one that could take more than 2 hits?
Or what if we just built some turrets on the ground that actually fired faster than jackass guy?
So the real war that we're fighting is against ignorance, I guess.
It is. You're punishing people.
Oh, and by the way, it can vertical takeoff and land. It's a pretty sick fighter. So yeah.
I don't see your fighter there, man.
Let's go to the supply room here. There's me. Hello, Harold.
Harold's Death Emporium.
Nice.
That is awesome.
And he's got all kinds of. He's got mega bombs, air-to-air missiles, shields, plasma cannons,
phase shields.
There was a lot of stuff you could get in this game. It was pretty sick.
Death Ray. You could totally get it by Death Ray.
Hell yeah. But you know what? We should probably, you know,
talk
about what everybody came here to see, which is, of course, the Beamdog Friday show.
Hell yeah.
About Baldur's Gate, Baldur's Gate 2, Icewind Dale, Planescape Torment.
Planescape Torment is on sale on mobile.
It is.
It is doing well. If you enjoy Planescape, it's 60% off on Apple and Google right now.
That's right. So if you have a tablet or a phone and you're like, ugh, I wish that on this device I could visit the nexus of the multiverse and visit the Lady of Pain.
Yar.
Finally, after perhaps months of waiting for it to go on sale, you can finally experience that.
And you can do that on the throne because that is the place that most tablet games are played.
So Trent, I noticed that there are several misshapen pieces of metal on the table this morning.
First, I'm going to do a public service announcement,
Oh, all right.
which is if you are welding, don't do it in a t-shirt because you wind up with this really cool tan. So I don't know if you can see, but I have a nice sunburn that ends right there. This is my off arm. I have burned it badly.
Stop flashing yourself, Trent.
Yeah. So that was less than awesome.
So for all you metalworkers in the audience out there laughing it up.
T-shirt welding, bad. So what I have here is a very simple European kind of straight dagger. I've just done a rough shape grind on it. I'm reasonably happy with it. I cleaned it up a bit so it's a little shiny. I will hand it to the hand of Dan so that the hand of Dan can show it off.
So what makes it European?
Because
the
it's
accent?
basically straight and it's very stabby.
Just like
European
Europeans.
things are very straight and stabby. They're
For
not
our
much
European
in the way of
fans out there, you've just been
slashing.
described very aptly by Trent.
And the second thing I have is I have forged out a throwing knife. So this is L6, which is basically hate metal. It's hate metal because you have to pound on it like you wouldn't believe to get it to do anything.
Given the
So this
thickness,
is just rough forged. It's about a 1/4 inch thick right now, which is ridiculous. So my master plan is to forge this out. I made the ring on the end here too big, so I'm going to forge that down a bit. And I'll lighten up the back here and I'll broaden out the head a bit. But it's basically going to be like a throwing chisel.
So right now, because it's still so wide, it's more of a throwing club.
It is.
But
it's a slightly spiky throwing club.
it leaves a pretty serious mark, as the back of my head is evidence of.
I was throwing it at cardboard. You just happen to be nearby.
So yeah, we have a sale on Google Play and iOS for Planescape Torment Enhanced Edition.
Yep.
Other Beamdog news, we're still hiring, of course. We have a lot of positions open right now. We're looking for a lot of programmers. We're looking for technical artists. We're looking for producers. We're looking for
console programmers.
That's right. We are looking for people who are very interested in porting classic experiences to things like the Nintendo Switch, the PlayStation 4, the Xbox One, the NVIDIA Shield, the General Electric toaster, anything that has some sort of
We're not
FPGA.
done enhancing until it's on every damned piece of electronics on this planet.
No, so we're spinning up a team here to work on that sort of stuff. So I'm sure you guys have seen Pillars on console, and it's a great experience. And so we're interested. We're going to look into it, but we're staffing up for something like that. And
Something like that.
Something like that, yeah. And we have plans for our other nefarious games as well, but we won't talk about those right now.
I didn't know we were making nefarious games.
They're all nefarious in their own adorable way.
I guess there is that.
Beyond that, the 2.5 update. All right, let's get into this one.
All right, Phil.
This is
2.5
mine.
us.
So let's.
Because the end of the month is close, my
It is very
friend.
close. It's Monday. So 2.5. I inherited all 5 of the Infinity Engine games, and they'd had an amazing plan for 2.5 by Corey, and then I proceeded to ruin that plan.
That is kind of your nature.
Don't stop giving me projects, man.
It's kind of a bull in a china shop.
Yeah.
Let's break some things.
Because I'm like, hey, you know what? If we're going to go in there, we should fix this, and we should also add that, and we should do that too, but let's not change the timeline. So 2.5, Icewind Dale is probably going to be the first one. It's in testing right this second. If all goes well, I'd like to kick up a build this weekend that you can test out, and then if all things go well over the weekend, we'll look at release on Monday for the first of the 2.5 patches. After that, if everything is gravy, we're going to look at doing BG2 next, and then we'll look at the rest of them after that. So 2.5 is coming along, but why did it take so long, Trent?
Why did it take so long,
What did I do?
Phil? What the hell, Phil?
Well, there's all sorts of stuff that we had. 2.5 had about a year's worth of backlog of issues that we had to work on, and a lot of fixes results in a lot of subsequent bugs from those fixes.
Yes.
So there's a lot of unexplored stuff in there that we had to resolve.
That is actually one of the golden things that most people don't know about the Infinity Engine, is that it repays bug fixes with more bugs. Probably at about a 5-to-3 ratio.
But that's a terrible way to live. So Daigle, what are you doing about that horrible scenario?
You're starting to talk about yourself in the third person, dude.
That's right, because
I'm
I'm putting their voice in my head where they're saying, "Look at this bald moron who can't ship software to save his life." So we're taking some extra time, and we added a lot more analytics to help us track down and resolve these issues that we're running into. So I do not want to leave IE in a poor state at all. So what we're doing to resolve things in the future is we're getting more staff to work on this thing, because for a long time there we were down to like a skeleton crew to work on IE, which is one of the reasons it took so long. This is 5 games, and that's a lot of content.
It's a lot of content, and it's a lot of different code paths that all that content is snaking through.
Yeah. But our tech team on IE is fantastic. They've been busting ass throughout all 5 of these games to get 2.5 ready. And I think you guys are going to be really, really happy with the work that they've put in.
I think so.
And after that, it's all about tracking down any crashes that remain and fixing those up. We want IE to be in a fantastic state. Infinity is near and dear to my heart because I grew up playing these games, so I want Infinity to be fantastic, stable for everyone, and cross-compatible everywhere.
We got a question about the technical artist.
Yes.
So the technical artist position we're hiring for is basically a 3D artist who has done some kind of scripting or playing in the tools pipeline. The goal is to really streamline the ability to get art built and into the game fairly quickly.
That's what we're looking for.
Yep. Another question here.
You.
One of my favorite games of all time is Master of Magic. Any chance Beamdog would work on an EE edition of that?
Who made Master of Magic?
I never played Master of Magic.
I actually didn't either, which is surprising to me.
I know not of this Master of Magic of which you speak.
Do they mean Masters of Might and Magic? Maybe that's what they mean.
I don't know.
Anyways,
we're
so
in the dark, man.
Before we move off of 2.5, so Monday we're aiming for the first of the 2.5 releases for Icewind Dale. And I just want to call out again, the tech team on IE has been doing a fantastic job. And our QA department, Kristen, is amazing. She has the 5 games of knowledge in her head that she has to maintain at all times. Actually 6 because Neverwinter as well. And she pulls it off with a tiny team, so we salute you for doing this amazing work.
Yep.
And I'm trying to get you more QA. I swear, I'm going to get them.
We are working on that.
So yeah, come Monday, keep an eye out, and later today, if everything went well with the Icewind Dale tests, we'll try kicking up a beta that you can have access to.
Sounds
so
reasonable.
Shall we move on to...
I think it's T-shirt time.
Yeah.
I think we should give away a T-shirt.
Yeah.
So we will give away a T-shirt to Tianlong90.
Tianlong. Tien was the name of a character from Dragon Ball Z. He had 3 eyes. He had one little special eye up here. And then he was too weak to compete with the other Dragon Ball Z fighters. So he just kind of was there.
Sad.
And you just watched, and he made a lot of like, oh, I can't believe this is happening.
That's so sad.
Yeah, so
with the 3rd eye, you'd think he would be awesome because
we have now successfully drained my anime knowledge.
Dragon Ball Z was kind of amazing. But at the same time, it kind of never made sense.
So not too long ago, we had a bit of a contest where we had someone, or the winner was going to get their portrait created in Neverwinter Nights based on a photo that they sent us.
Dear God, what
right.
madness.
So somebody won this contest. They sent us a photo.
We actually had a winner.
It
wasn't fake, like all
it
the
wasn't
T-shirts
fake.
are.
We didn't just grab someone from the street and take a photo of them and paint over that. We did the work of getting a photo from someone over the internet. So we're quite pleased with that. But no, let's bring it up on the screen here, and we will show you the contest winner and their fantastic new portrait, which they are quite ecstatic about. There we go. So shout out to Beamdog artist Taya for doing this portrait for us in very, very short notice. This portrait is fantastic. The lady in this portrait, whose name is going to come up on the screen in a few seconds here because I have forgotten it very rudely, is a big fan of bats, so we made sure to give her a bat familiar. Stephanie, congratulations. That was her name.
Yeah, that's an awesome portrait. I noticed in the picture she doesn't have a hand, and suddenly in the portrait there is a hand there.
The miracle of art.
A hand was created for you.
Anyway, so she's quite happy with that. We were quite happy with the results, and it's a really, really cool portrait. How many Neverwinter Nights or Baldur's Gate portraits have bats in them right now?
Not very many.
Not very many. I would say less than 4.
Probably less than that.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Neverwinter Nights. How about we talk about that?
How about Neverwinter Nights?
What's going on with Neverwinter Nights?
So it says the patch notes are on a separate page. So I will look at the separate page.
Oh,
so
we got some big features.
One of the big things we were actually able to do was we changed a number, which is cool.
Fantastic. This is what you guys showed up for.
A number went from 96 to 255.
What number does that represent?
That is the max player number.
Ooh.
So there's all these battle royale. Oh, we got 100 people. We kind of laughed at that. It's like, dude, we got 255 because that's the most you can represent in a fight. We're awesome. So 255 players are capable. You can set the number lower to reserve slots for DMs if you want. That said, just because we changed the number doesn't mean it's going to work awesomely. If you throw 255 players in there, bad things may happen. So watch the load, see how it goes, and we'll try and figure things out and see where their performance is.
So why not change that to an unsigned int or something, and then really up the player limit?
I think 250. Well,
I'm sure there's a lot of reasons why we were not going to change that data type. We're having some issues with the Twitch chat right now, or perhaps Twitch is having some issues with its own chat, so we can't take questions from the audience, but we can come up with questions that we think the audience is going to ask.
You just totally cut off my flow there, dude. I was in my flow.
All right,
so
fine.
We're still working with Intel on the graphics issues. We heard a report from their engineers. They found a couple crashes on their side, and they're digging through it right now. So their driver team is taking a look, digging into the stack to see where on their side their stuff is blowing up.
Turns out when you're trying to catch up with 20 years of OpenGL drivers, it's, you miss some things.
Which is actually awesome because it means that it's not our shit blowing up. I'm so happy.
Come on, it's Twitch.
I'm so happy.
There's children here.
There are?
Maybe.
If you are a child and you are watching this, you are a sad
Be
child.
gone!
We renamed the Head Start on Beamdog client to Development to avoid confusion. So Dev is basically where the latest kind of fragile code is up and playing. If you want to get out there and poke the latest and greatest, you can do that. If you are running a server or expecting people to be able to connect to your game and play and enjoy it, probably not the best idea. Development branch, we're not testing a lot before it goes up. We take and we test a lot before we push the main build up. We go pretty light on the testing for dev build because we're throwing stuff up to see what works. It's almost like experimenting. We're experimenting with something and seeing, hey, yeah, this is working great, or oh my God, that's exploding all over the place.
Exploding
so
all over the place is.
So Neverwinter can now accept Cyrillic key input again if the font override is provided. It's kind of a stopgap measure to support our Russian friends while we're working on proper UTF-8. So UTF-8 is going to take a little bit of time yet.
That's great. We should go further than that. We should add emoji support. How about that? My player name is eggplant, eggplant, eggplant.
I'm seriously thinking about stabbing you with the throwing dagger that is really dull. It'd probably take a lot of force to punch it into you. But on that note, Neverwinter script, we fixed a crash in get area size. We added some basic protection against packet flooding, which we saw recently for some servers. So if you're out there trying to flood Neverwinter servers with packets, bad person.
I guess the question there is why? Why do you hate the people running the server so much?
Because you are a small-minded individual and have a sad life.
Maybe there's a legitimate use for packet flooding. We don't know.
And
We're
I
judging.
am judging harshly. We fixed stopping and resuming audio playback when audio device is connected or reconnected.
So I can start plugging my USB headphones in and out constantly.
Again, I'm looking at you with disdain. Why are you doing this? This is a character flaw. This is a bad thing about you, Phil. You should not be doing that. We saving and loading ShadowGuard Premium Module save games been fixed. We found an issue with that. This is one of those things. The code base is so big, things can hide in crazy places. And player name checks are now case insensitive for purposes of locking names to public keys. Other things, Soren, also known as Zarathustra 217, he did some awesome stuff for us. He went
Thank
through
you very much, by the way.
And he worked on the new dynamic contrast shader and the new screen space anti-aliasing.
Ambient occlusion, actually.
Ambient occlusion. Anti-aliasing. God.
So,
So many words. There's so many different words in this technology thing.
as a refresher for those of you who forget what the SSAO stuff is, that's the shadowing filter that you can apply so that, like, when you look in a corner, it's actually dark.
It's screen space ambient occlusion is what it stands for. SSAO.
It's one of those things that just makes games look better in ways that are hard to describe.
Yeah. That said, it is a bit of a heavy feature because it's screen space. So if you're running it on a 4K display, it will crush your frame rate.
Especially if you're playing on a 4K display with an Intel integrated Iris graphics chipset like I do.
At that point, I think you were just your spite.
Why isn't it running at 60 FPS? I don't get it. That's me.
That's kind of along the lines of those tablets that were coming out for Android for a while, where they had this massive resolution and this pitiful GPU CPU combo.
Or the iPad 3, which still had roughly the same GPU as the iPad 2, but 4 times the resolution.
You gotta love it when they do that. I totally love it. Other things, chat log and combat UI log now remember the size between play sessions, and they also remember if they were in split or combined mode. So that's a nice thing.
A lot of little quality of life things.
And we added in object visual transformation. So that feature that has been on the backlog like forever finally got done. So it's like you can scale, translate, rotate creatures, items, placeables, dynamic placeables only, and doors. You can also adjust the animation speed independently from the object scale.
There's actually a whole bunch of new Neverwinter script editions as well for
There's a lot.
reading that.
There's a lot for playing with that. So it's actually pretty awesome.
So you could theoretically build a functioning clock in Neverwinter Nights, like an analog clock now, that would do things at certain times.
You could.
Don't do that. That's crazy. But that's the first thing that comes to mind. If you build a module with a functioning clock that kills me,
I have built a
I will
clock.
send you a shirt.
He will send somebody a shirt for killing you with a clock.
I always knew it was going to end that way.
So what I get if I kill you with a clock?
Well, I mean, you'd have to. Your challenge has to be higher. You have to forge a clock out of metal.
I have to forge a
and
clock.
then crush me with it.
I have to crush you with a clock. I like the concept of crushing you with a clock.
Did we want to get into the meta server side? I guess they don't really. That's for us to worry about.
Yeah, behind the scenes, things have gotten slightly better.
That's right.
Let's say that much.
And I know people are very curious about our new content plans, which are still privately being developed right now. If everything that I would like to do comes to pass, I would be quite pleased, and I think you folks will be as well. But unfortunately, we're not in a position where we can talk about it yet.
Last thing I saw, Boyd was poking longswords.
Yeah, actually, last week we pushed out a package into the workshop. Boyd had some
great axes.
Yeah, some in-progress great axes that he put out there, and people were pretty pleased with how they looked, and they're a showcase of some of the things that you can do in the new graphics engine.
Yep.
Although hilariously, immediately people were like, "Hey, can we get like leather handles to represent like +1 and stuff like that?" And it's like, you give them an inch and they want a mile.
Yeah, it's like, here's some new awesome. Can we have more awesome? It's like, just say thanks. Just say thanks.
No.
Wait a day and then ask for the new.
They don't have to say thanks. We just need to give them more.
Oh, dude.
That's what needs to happen.
I'm sad.
Yeah, so check out the workshop. We're going to be throwing up more stuff there in the future, more weapons as we produce them, that sort of thing. We have much larger content plans cooking in the background than just replacing a few objects.
Yeah.
But again, you'll find more about that maybe in beginning of June, perhaps?
Well, we're going to take some time internal because the Neverwinter Tool channel is currently pretty broken. We're actually working with yet another ex-BioWare person to rebuild the Neverwinter 3ds Max art pipeline and get it working properly again. Who'd have thought something as simple as axis-aligned bounding boxes would thwart us?
So right now we can produce tons of content. Getting it into the engine is a massive pain, so we just don't do that until the tool chain's fixed.
We can produce a ton of content that you can't interact with and that can't actually make it into the game successfully.
I can write 100 books that you can't read.
Exactly.
Question from the audience. Any progress on releasing design docs for Neverwinter Nights? I guess this is a question for you, Trent.
It is a question for me. So that all comes down to the interpretation of who owns it and what is applicable to be released.
Well, that depends on what your definition of is.
Exactly. So I don't know if we're able to. I'm still looking into that. I got to have a long conversation with a friend over at another company.
Well, the main issue is that at some point in this whole process, a lawyer has to sign a document saying yes, and
saying it is okay. You will not be exploded into legal oblivion for releasing these documents that you don't really own.
And while that is a 5-minute task for any competent legal professional, getting to that point, however, is a long and arduous process that I'm sure you would like to know all the details of, but we cannot talk about. What else do we have from the audience? Any plans to add GOG or to add Neverwinter Nights to GOG? Actually, people have been asking about this for a while.
Yeah, we've been talking with the GOG guys. They're crazy busy right now, so actually,
yeah,
it's wending its way slowly through the process.
So yes, it's happening. It just takes a long time to get this deal signed.
Yeah.
Any plans for additional localizations for Neverwinter Nights Enhanced Edition? We're in talks about that. Nothing concrete right now, but we'll see what we can turn up.
Yeah, and I think as well, kind of like Baldur's Gate, if there's fan translations that are well done and you guys want to propagate them out, so by all means contact us and we'll see what we can do about putting them up in Translate.
Yeah, there's two sides of the coin. One, we're going to set up our translate.beamdog.com or baldursgate.com to work with Neverwinter Nights at some point in the near future. We actually have a full-time web developer now for our website and subsites. So we'll work on that in the future, getting Neverwinter Nights on there so that if translation teams want to come in and do a translation, as Trent pointed out, they can. But we're also in talks with getting some professional localizations done, and we'll see how those go.
Yep.
While we're chatting about Neverwinter Nights, how about we play some Baldur's Gate? Let's do that.
It's a clumsy transition, dude.
That is a clumsy transition.
Here's another question. Are custom portraits automatically downloaded in Neverwinter Nights Enhanced Edition?
Good question.
If not, would it be possible? I believe that things are currently not automatically downloaded. It's one of those things that is possible, but it's kind of fits into that broader content downloading and exchanging issue.
It's coming, basically.
Yeah, it's one of those things that we got some work to do, and when the work is done, suddenly a lot of things will suddenly function.
Let's play Baldur's Gate. I want to play Baldur's Gate because we're playing more than just Baldur's Gate. We're playing the Black Pits 2.
You're playing the Black Pits 2.
I want to tell people about the Black Pits 2, the good news of the Black Pits 2. It's not good news. Neutral news, perhaps.
Neutral?
Yeah. Yeah, so what was going on when we did Baldur's Gate 2? We had just come out of BG1.
Yeah.
And that was a pretty fast release. And then BG2, I can't remember the exact details, but there were some issues with the timeline of releasing this thing.
Oh yeah, there was some. Yeah, I don't want to talk about that. I have bad memories. Bad memories.
So at this time, I was working on Black Pits 2, and we had some pretty cool plans for it. But unfortunately, a lot of it we just didn't have time to do because we had to finish up for release. And I've always wanted to go back and add like the final tier to the Black Pits 2, but we've just never really had an opportunity. So maybe next year, if everyone is not busy, as I'm sure they won't be.
No one's ever busy.
Yeah, it was a fun adventure, and I wish we could have done so much more. But I'm still pretty proud of the work that we've done here. It was a very, very tight timeline for BG2, and I think it turned out pretty good.
It was basically a year.
For BG2?
Yeah.
For Black Pits 2, it was way less than that because we started well after BG2 mainline started.
Right.
Because we had to do the BG2 companion quests.
Yep.
And then we started looking at Black Pits 2. And we actually had to bring in Ossian Studios, Alan Miranda's crew. Alan, I'm sure you folks who are familiar with Neverwinter Nights remember Alan. He did
Mask of the Betrayer.
Mask of the Betrayer for Neverwinter Nights 2. Wait, did he?
Yeah.
Alan, did you work on that? Alan, you worked on that.
Yeah, that was one of his. Yeah, Alan was my producer on Neverwinter Nights. Alan was overseeing the entire audio and music side, which was pretty awesome. I credit Alan for getting the game audio finished at high quality.
Question from the audience. Can you do foreign VO for Baldur's Gate, The Black Pits? I would actually love to do foreign VO for all of our foreign language translations, but unfortunately VO
VO's expensive.
is expensive as hell. We actually did that for German in BG1,
Yes.
and we lucked out there in terms of price tag. But
Well,
like,
we had an actual member of the community who just happened to be a professional voiceover producer, and he helped run it from their side. And even then, the costs. I mean, we got good actors, and we spent good money on the studios, but it was horribly expensive. And us trying to do that across all the games would actually, it would not be commercially viable. I guess that's the best way I can kind of say it.
where's Bartle and Tartle? Yeah, I named all these characters because I'm terrible at naming and I love alliteration, so deal with it.
We've got a request if we can show some of the object manipulation, like the scaling, etc. Currently, it's pretty hard to work with.
There's a test module in our Jira right now, but it's kind of irritating to set up on stream, so we'll get it rigged up for the next stream and show you guys.
Yeah. Ultimately, we enable something and then we start making it a lot easier to work with after it's up and functioning first.
So we're both Google and Apple in one.
Dear God. When setting up a server, this is a question. Is there anything that must be done for client security now that we have the new master server again?
For client security?
For setting up a server, you should be able to just fire it back up. And it should handle it automatically. I don't think you've got a lot of things to worry about. It's kind of back to how it was, only slightly better. Gotta love that.
How it was, but slightly better.
It's slightly better.
There you go.
I think I was amazingly non-specific there. So Black Pits 2, back when we were talking about it there.
Yeah.
I remember you coming forward with it's like, so it'll be like Black Pits, which is basically an arena fight, but there'll be some story bits. And pretty soon the story bits got bigger and
Do you want to recall the actual process for how story got forcibly injected into the Black Pits?
Let me think about that, Phil. Well,
Because I have a very different interpretation of how that went.
Let's do more. How hard could it possibly be?
My original pitch for the Black Pits 1 was that it wasn't even going to have outside of combat portion. It was purely going to be through like the menus. You had like a list of combat scenarios you choose, or you build your party or whatever, like in the multiplayer interface, and then you go off and you do that challenge. And then we realized that, hey, fans of Baldur's Gate show up for the story as well, so we decided, all right, let's tie it together with a fun little narrative.
Yep.
And I think in the end that was probably the right choice.
And the Black Pits 1 it was nice. It was tight. It had some fun, some fun stuff going on. We created the character of Bailiff, who
I love Bailiff.
Basically an alliteration nightmare that has run off to.
You guys love Bailiff as much as I do, right? This isn't just me in my vacuum or echo chamber saying that Bailiff is fantastic and should be in every single Beamdog game going forward. You all agree with me, right? Bailiff Baratil is a drow, which means that he can live through 2nd edition, 3rd edition, 4th edition, 5th edition. He could show up anywhere.
He is a drow. They are elfish and thus long-lived. Here's a question. Will you make a new deleted link that will support .mtr? It doesn't accept MTR at the moment. I'm assuming deleted link has some other word that was actually in there. So I don't really understand the question. But the MTR is pretty new, so it's a wee fragile at the moment.
Never do that accent again, please.
Okay. I will never do that accent again.
Let's
And here's another question. Can you try crowdfunding for new voiceovers, thereby allowing communities to decide? Crowdfunding is one of those things.
It's an interesting idea. I'll give you that.
If it was just us, I would say, yeah, that's a viable way to do it. But keep in mind, we do license products from both Wizards of the Coast and Electronic Arts. So in order for us to try and do anything, we actually need sign-off from everybody involved. And getting sign-off from everybody involved is
difficult.
probably like trying to milk snakes. You're like, I'm gonna get some milk from this. Oh God, it bit me. Oh jeez, no, I feel bad now.
I've never heard that expression before.
Well, we'll lie down and somebody give me the NWN and see that's me dealing with everybody external.
That's a very original take on herding cats, but all right.
Milking snakes, baby, milking snakes.
Before we begin, is there anything you'd like to say to the audience? Not particularly.
I would like to say,
Denneton.
Are you not entertained? That's what I would say.
Denneton's name, I stole that from the publisher of Hotline Miami. They're called Denneton. And
Really?
I was playing Hotline Miami at the time, and I was like, I like that name. I'm going to steal that.
I like that name.
See, creating content is all about just
Thievery?
theft.
Outright theft.
Not having any original ideas, doing what was done before, all stellar things to attempt. Combat. Let's do it.
I see in the chat log somebody's talking about starting a snake milking farm.
That's going to be the new class that we had in Neverwinter Nights.
Snake milker.
Yeah.
It's
like a snake
level
handler.
17 snake milker. Well, I assume. What do you call somebody who gets the venom out of a snake?
Very carefully.
I would say that's a snake milker. Totally. Snake milker.
That sounds like an insult you'd hear in Skyrim. Like when they're like, milk drinker, snake milker. All right, back to the topic of our games.
Yes.
So Neverwinter Nights, that update is rolling out today. This is the development branch update.
Yes.
Or is this a mainline? Okay.
Yeah, it hasn't gone mainline yet. So it's going to be a little flaky. You can poke it. And if you find things that you like in there, great. And if you have ideas on how to take things further, by all means, discuss them on the forums. Get them posted to the Trello. And we should probably take a look at the Trello. We haven't looked at that
all right,
recently.
let me just wrap up this fight with the orcs here that I'm definitely going to win because I totally prepared for it and I'm definitely paying 100% attention to.
You should note that Phil is actually a good player at Baldur's Gate. It's just when live streaming, he tends to get distracted by 1,000 things going on at the same time. And as a result, winds up dying in horrible ways.
I'm using Skull Trap as a poor man's fireball to take out these guys.
Or that's your plan. Your plan
no,
is
it's going to work. Watch this. Ooh, oh, I only got one.
That's pretty weak sauce.
Fly to Nishrik, my brother.
That was one of the additions we made, all the funny little things the enemies will say during combat.
The fun things we had.
Oh, actually, my favorite feature of Black Pits 2 was the VO, the announcer. Denneton gets in there, and he does a great job. I'm eternally sad that we couldn't get Mark Muir to do it, but maybe we'll get an opportunity in the future for something like that.
Yeah, Mark's a good fellow. He's a lot of fun to work with.
We're going to be hanging out with him early June. Maybe you guys will see what we're up to.
Maybe.
It's going to be hilarious, but we're not going to tell you about it.
I have no idea what you're talking about, man. You're just kind of randomly babbling about stuff now.
All right, so we've largely defeated the orcs, and now this is obviously just mop up. So let's get in there and kill that shaman. Or no, it's an orc priest. Eat it. Yeah, you're going to die, buddy.
I see a comment in the chat there that the NW hack doesn't support .mtr files. So can we add it to the hack? So we need new hack. Oh God. This is the reason why I don't like making things new because
this is what they want, man.
It's like imagine scaffolding that goes up and supports all this stuff. Only over time bits of the scaffolding have gone missing. And then suddenly we put some new structure on top of the scaffolding and there's a missing spot there. And suddenly we're like, oh my God. The thing that did the stuff that did the weird thing. We gotta fix that.
A captive audience telling you what they want, what they desire, and you're just like, feh.
I'm the opposite of feh.
You're making that noise.
I will take the pain. I will do what you request, and it will hurt me greatly.
All right, so we're on the Trello board now. Let's take a gander at some of the stuff in here. So we got our development build notes here if you want to check out the exact details of what's going on.
Yep.
And as well, we've got stuff that we've got in the icebox, proposed, needs more discussion, etc., etc. We've gone over these categories in the past, but I'll let Trent give us kind of a refresher of what each one of these categories is.
Proposed is things that we've moved off of the discussion board onto the board where we actually, yes, this has been proposed, we're seriously considering this now. Icebox is, we looked at it, oh my God, this is a lot of work. We got to design this, we got to figure it out. Let's park it for the moment until we can figure out exactly what needs to happen. Needs more discussion is a topic where it's a detailed problem and we've got ideas around it, but we'd like to see what the community is getting out of it.
So quick loot, for example, quick loot actually is pretty straightforward in terms of how we would implement it, but it's kind of waiting on, hey, if we're going to add new UI elements, should we be doing that in our existing UI or should we be doing that in a much better UI system?
Yes, and then we've got the kind of the long-term active stuff, so stuff that's going to be more than 3 months actively in development. So this is from design, initial implementation, initial testing.
So here's a big one, port to 64-bit, which we are currently hip deep in.
Yeah, so I don't know if anybody's aware, but the joy of taking a 32-bit app and porting it to 64-bit, it sounds like you would just change some numbers.
Just search and replace 32, 64. What's the big deal?
Yeah. The problem is a lot of data formats actually are encoded like binary formats to be compiled quickly so the game can load them fast. They hardcode that data. And when they're expecting 32 bits and suddenly you try to ram 64 into that, things go moosh. In a bad way.
Can't imagine why.
I know.
You know, we should just get ahead of the game and just port directly to 128-bit.
Yeah, 128-bit.
Inch 128.
That'll be awesome. 128-bit processors.
So that's in the mix right now.
Because God knows that terabytes of data are not enough.
And of course, 64-bit is a requirement for a lot of the new platforms that we're looking at. The Mac App Store, for example, in the future, they're not going to... actually, now, I don't think you can submit 32-bit apps to the Mac App Store.
No, we can't submit to the Mac App Store anymore.
And existing ones are going to be shuttered eventually because the latest Mac OS update starts spawning error messages that say, hey, this is going to be not usable in the future. You should pressure the developer to do work for them.
Your app is about to start sucking a lot. So you should tell the developer that they don't have enough work to do. They should do extra work because we felt like changing a number.
Yeah. And of course, iOS
I'm not bitter.
64-bit only.
I'm not bitter at all.
Another big one, TrueType font support. So we talked earlier about stopgap measure for Russian language support.
Yes.
And that is indeed a stopgap because once we get TrueType font support and Unicode in there, we should be able to handle all foreign languages in a much more...
And the text will scale and look good.
Yeah, that's a big one that people are asking for is, hey, can I arbitrarily scale the UI instead of 1x, 2x, whatever?
The answer right now is no, but the goal is to hopefully open that up.
The main limitation is the fonts. The fonts do not scale correctly, so you would have a terrible, terrible experience, and we want it to be a not terrible experience.
Yeah, and we also want to rework the UI so it's easier to mod because right now it is moddable, but just
and of
tough.
Course, endless requests for more customization in 2DAs. So we're looking at this every day, how we can open this stuff up. Actually, Mark Dara on Twitter had a very hilarious thread about 2DAs not too long ago, where he was talking about his work on like Shattered Steel, Baldur's Gate, all the way up to recent stuff like Anthem.
Shattered Steel. Dara wasn't there for Shattered Steel.
I thought he was.
No, Dara didn't show up until BG2.
Maybe I read.
He was BG1. I think he started as we were finishing up BG1, and he rolled on to BG2.
But anyways, so he was like, "Hey, I made 2DAs, and they were great, but they were never supposed to be the data format that shipped with the game. This was supposed to be like an intermediate format that you convert to something."
You should stop hammering the table, dude. You're making all sorts
of
banging.
I'm angry about 2DAs.
Yeah, so 2DAs as a text-based format, and anytime you're doing string compares are slow. And indexing into basically a text array looking for text strings. I mean,
it ain't quick, I'll tell you that
someone had a plan, and the plan got literally 60% done, and then we just moved on and game shipped with it. I remember Brent Knowles jumping in on Jade Empire like 4 months from ship, and the combat system is just this
yeah,
smoking
that's right.
void. And so Brent, being a 2DA wizard, cobbled together a combat system out of 2DAs that then shipped with the game.
Now, to clarify, this wasn't Dara's fault.
No.
This was just people abusing a system that he put together for them.
So Mark Dara jumped in as the lead programmer on Baldur's Gate 2, and Dara was hilarious because most programmers up to that point, designers would make a request, and the programmers would be, "No, this is my domain." Mark was like, "Hey, sure, I'd love to let you guys do that. Contingency, chain contingency, those sound great."
Yeah.
So he gets in there and he's literally creating custom UIs, and oh my God, this is the worst workflow ever. But he said yes.
So the one nice thing about 2DAs, though, is that they do make the game moddable in a
They make the game
very
moddable,
easy
and
way.
it's accessible.
Yeah.
Once you can wrap your head around how the 2DAs link together. I mean, with Neverwinter, I think the worst scenario I saw is a 6 2DA deep reference. So a 2DA holds an entry which references another 2DA, which holds an entry which references another 2DA.
Yeah.
I believe 6 deep is the worst scenario I've seen.
So I don't think we're too eager to remove the 2DAs at all. We're just expressing our frustration with a data format. Although, like today, if you were going to sit down and make something and you wanted it to be very, very moddable, you could still make it moddable via text. You just wouldn't do a 2DA. You'd use a more common data format that is standard today.
Or you would have an editable source format that then gets packaged into an efficient runtime format. So
that would probably be the best way to handle it. Is at runtime.
So you want to know something that a lot of people probably don't know? The Neverwinter Nights Dungeon Master client was made by Mark Dara.
Oh.
He was seconded to the team. Yeah, we totally kidnapped him and dragged him over to our side and said, "Mark, you're working on it. Get fixing it."
What did you drag him off of?
I believe he had just finished Baldur's Gate 2.
Oh.
Yeah, and then he was doing some work on KOTOR. I think he was helping out there, and then suddenly we blew the trumpets. BioWare project is next out the door. Send all your capable humans our way. We used to call it the BioWare fire hose. It's like, oh my God, the game needs loving. Give it all the humans in the office.
Used to call it the BioWare fire hose.
Yep.
Used to.
I think they still probably do.
Yeah.
I don't use those words anymore.
Well, you don't work
I'm
with
not
BioWare
there
anymore. Yeah.
No, it's been almost a decade. Dear God,
That's
almost a decade. So
to
t-shirt
celebrate
time,
that it's been almost a decade,
we
let's
should
give away a T-shirt. Yeah.
So we give away this T-shirt to Martin with many underscores.
Martin the mouse.
I'm not sure why the underscores are there, but
Because Martin was taken, and Martin underscore was taken, and Martin underscore underscore was taken, but Martin underscore 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 wasn't taken.
that's looking like 5 underscores to me.
I don't know. I can't read that font.
So-
Thanks a lot, Google. Open sand my
4.
ass.
So congratulations, Martin of the 4 underscores.
Speaking of Jade Empire, question from the audience
Oh,
here.
God.
Jade Empire Enhanced Edition. Ooh, is there any chance for that one?
I
thought
think
Jade was
Jade
getting
Empire,
re-released.
it's you can play it on Xbox One now
Yeah,
through
with the backwards
through the
compat.
emulation.
But what about on desktop? Actually, it still runs on desktop fine.
It's still
Yeah,
still
there's
there.
actually pretty decent widescreen support for it.
Yeah.
Jade Empire 2, though, I don't think you're allowed to tell that story.
Probably not.
Yeah.
I think there's actually wording.
I've heard the story, and it's hilarious.
Yeah.
So I'm not under an NDA.
Yeah.
I won't tell it.
It was a great project.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on the allow customization of hard-coded feats? Any thoughts on how you would like to tackle that?
So that's one of the things that's been sitting in our Trello for quite some
So
time.
allow customization of hard-coded feats means that you would have potentially an inconsistent rules package between servers.
Yeah.
Now this has come down to kind of a philosophical discussion of, is the game the same throughout the world where I play, or is the game radically different from one server to another?
I know where I come down on this.
Where do you come down?
I think the game should be radically different because everyone's shard is their own, right? And that reflects, to me, real D&D where everyone's got their own house rules and whatnot.
Yeah. I was thinking about this architecturally and talking with a couple people about it, about what Neverwinter kind of is and where the core rules live and how the core rules behave. And the concept of portals and being able to link servers together was all about having kind of that trust network, that the common rules applied across all of those servers that were linked together in the portal. Now, based on that, having you be able to go in and edit and hardcode and modify the hard-coded rules, suddenly you've got this kind of untrusted universe where you could be in one server and you jump to another, and suddenly an ability that you relied upon constantly in combat suddenly no longer works or doesn't work properly. And I really don't love that. I mean,
but at the same time, that is how Planescape, the campaign setting, worked, because different planes would have different effects on magic.
Yep.
Although that's a much, much smaller effect than what you're describing here.
It is. I mean, you could literally jump from one server where spells are normal and feats are normal, and suddenly you jump to a completely different, don't worry about us, we're staring at Dan because Dan's playing with the wire.
Just a man grabbing my cable here.
Yeah. And it really comes down to like inconsistency in kind of core behavior. So it's really a question of how to handle that and how to do that well. I think part of that would be almost like establishing a standard trust rules between servers that are linked together via portal.
But then also you need a way to package up a rule set and distribute it. And that's kind of tricky, because how much of the rule set is currently embedded inside of just the code of Neverwinter Nights?
Yeah. The answer is some, but not all.
So order of operations is strip that out of the code and make it portable. Well, make that something that can be a dynamic resource, and then make it so that it can be distributed from a server when you connect. Grab the rules package, set it up. Is this valid? Off you go. Yeah,
so what you've just described is us spending about 6 months to make absolutely no measurable forward progress in the game. So we would be demonstrating the game and saying, and here we are making changes behind the scenes that eventually will unlock this thing, but right now, nothing.
Yeah.
And then the next stream would be, and nothing. 6 months later, we're like, still nothing.
Finally, we can start writing the 5e rules package.
Yeah. So not a trivial war to pick.
Now, that being said, like, allow customization of feats. Like, there are stopgaps we can think about, like adding modifiers or mutators on known things. There's always going to be a baseline, and then you can abstract it in some capacity. So that's something that we can look into.
The key thing here is I'm not saying no to this.
Yeah.
I'm saying we're trying to wrap our head around it.
There's the Cadillac version, which does everything under the sun, and then there's a more approachable version that we might be able to do sooner.
Here's a question. Can you do shards online in Enhanced Edition? So I haven't wasted $75. They dropped the ball hard.
Let's take a look. A moddable sandbox MMORPG.
That's kind of harsh, dude.
I legitimately have not heard of this before.
$75? I haven't heard of it either.
Let's take a look on the old Beamdog Chrome browser here.
One of the truths of game development is you wind up being so busy making games that you actually don't have time to play games. That said, I did recently fire up the BattleTech game.
Ooh, yeah, that's a good one.
And
I like it.
You like it.
I like BattleTech, though.
So I like BattleTech, too, but I am an old and crusty gamer, and when things kind of lag or go really slow load times or anything, I start to say bad words. And BattleTech has made me say bad words. Quite a few bad words.
Sorry, I'm just reading up on Legends of Aria here. Very pretty.
The biggest advice I would give you if you feel these Shards Online guys have dropped the ball is talk to them. Say, hey dudes, kind of dropped the ball here, and try to encourage them to do better.
It reminds me very much of Ultima.
Ultima Online.
Yeah.
It looks like it.
Maybe that's what they were going for.
Maybe.
Because I assume, like, looking at the screenshots, I assume this is all about, like, player housing and territory control.
Do you want to know another Bizarro story? After my brother and I stopped working together, he actually went down to Origin to work on their combat, Jane's combat, and he was internal. They basically said, everyone, you have to play Ultima Online and test it before it goes live. So this is before the beta, and he's like, yeah. So basically, a whole bunch of people from the Jane's group got thrown into Ultima Online, and what did we do? Well, the first thing is we stripped off all our clothes and ran through the center of town. So apparently that's what video game people do when they're testing a new game. They take off their clothes and run through town. which is yeah, it's a little
Which is
odd.
exciting. And the screenshots make it look kind of neat. I mean, it's obviously an early development thing, but there's potential there.
So ultimately, I would say that making games is hard, and actually getting something shipped into people's hands is an amazing accomplishment. And taking it from in people's hands to being amazing, that is the magic there.
I
That is
make it
the
a
love.
point not to say negative things about other game developers
Yeah.
on stream, because that's a mean thing to do.
It is. Like the hilarious thing about game developers is we're all these crazy, hyper-optimistic people who have these visions in our head, and we're just in love with the concept that we're making, and the reality of what is coming out is just frustrating, horribly frustrating to us all, because it's never quite what you imagine. In some ways, it's orders of magnitude better, but in some ways, it always falls short, and you're always trying to do the best you can. So any game developer out there who's busting butt trying to make something awesome, thumbs up. Good job. Keep going. Do your thing. I love you guys.
Unless
But-
your name's Cliffy B.
But your product, I will critique periodically as I get frustrated by it. But the key thing I would say is that my critique is never meant to harm. Any critique I give is meant to make something better.
I gotta say, your critique meant to not harm has left a lot of bruises on my face, chest, and arms.
You're internal. I can totally harm
You're
you.
criticizing my internal organs, apparently.
There's a question. When is the next patch due for the development build?
It's uploading right now.
Zach is uploading it at the moment. It takes between 1 to 3 hours
And it's got to
for
propagate
bits
out.
to get to other bits to get to other bits.
So today, but in a few hours.
Yep.
Yep.
So that'll be the dev branch. You can poke things. Again, if you're running a persistent world, I would suggest not going to dev branch. I would stay on the shipping branch, because dev branch it's going to be flaky, and you're going to be limiting the pool of people who can jump on and play it.
So in IE Land 2.5, we're still trying to get Icewind, the first of the 2.5 patches, out on Monday. We're producing, or we have a build today. We're testing it out, and we hope to be testing it over the weekend. But things are looking good. We're going to meet that promise of starting to ship 2.5 in April, and start with BG2 after that.
That would be good. I'd be anxious for you guys to get the 2.5 stuff done. I've heard about it for so long.
I'm anxious to get it done so we can move on to other things.
I would like to stop spending money on it. Please let me stop spending money on 2.5.
No, Baldur's Gate will never stop spending money on it. So to wrap things
I
up,
suppose.
Beamdog is hiring. We're looking for programmers. We're looking for artists. We're looking for producers. We're looking into moving into the console space. So if you have experience with or are very interested in developing the Nintendo Switch, the Xbox One, the PS4, set-top boxes, that sort of thing, we'd love to hear from you.
Yeah. On the programming side, we're both looking for old school C++ people and web dev.
Web developers as well.
People who are comfortable JavaScript, HTML5.
We've got a big web dev project in the mix right now.
Well,
that
and
all
we're
excited about.
reworking the Beamdog website
Yep.
and our whole kind of Beamdog experience.
Yep. And our new unannounced project, Trent kicked my ass in the latest game that we had. I can't believe you pulled out that move.
That
was
said,
stupid.
I am being completely destroyed by yet another individual in the office at the moment.
That's the nice thing about this upcoming game, is that you can have like a bunch of games going at once and different strategies in each one, so it's a lot of fun.
Phil, I'm just going to call you Leaky Pants. Leaky Pants.
Guess what, guys? We're making poker.
So, since we're near the end of a stream, I think it's time to give another t-shirt. So the t-shirt, the last t-shirt of today will go to
Bicycle of...
Bicycle of Death without the E and the A.
Get it? I don't. Anyways.
Yeah, that's kind of sad.
Question for the audience. Are there any plans to let some volunteers work on parts of the C++ source code for people who want to pitch in whenever they can? So we actually do that
On a
historically.
we have a couple people who are hand selected who we work on a volunteer basis, because other commitments that they've made don't allow them to actually work with us. This is a very, very rare thing. It's usually people who have done big things in the community or who can demonstrate big things. We'll consider how to work with them. Liareth is a great example, where she's actually got access and she can look at things, and at the same time she's not contributing to the car code much. She's mostly focused on the Neverwinter extender. So it's rare, but it can happen.
Mm-hmm. What a neat little game this is. I think it looks neat.
What game is that?
That was the Shards Online thing.
Shards Online thing?
I'm curious. I'm going to look into this because I'm curious how
it looks
how
like they
people
solved the
perceive-
pathfinding through player problem by just ignoring it, which is awesome. So we're getting the
We're
gank.
getting the signal. Okay,
Yeah.
well, stop BSing and wasting all your time here.
That's our whole stream, dude. Okay, we'll see you guys next week.
Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next Friday.